Could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Bleacher Report exclusive day after reaction to the Washington Commanders' 30-23 loss in Week 6 to the Baltimore Ravens. Had a chance to digest the loss. It's it's funny being in this position because just a season ago, we won 4 games total. And now we started the season 2-0. So at this point of the season last year, we didn't know it was over yet. As a matter of fact, I think we got our 3rd win of the season in week number 6 last year against the Atlanta Falcons, if I'm not mistaken. But we didn't know the season was over. But having gone through the entirety of last year already, knowing what the outcome was, we're spoiled this year, having won 4 games in the first 5 weeks, going into this Ravens game with an abundance of confidence. A lot of us expecting to win this game. I can't speak for anybody else out there. I wasn't upset at the outcome yesterday. I was disappointed because I really thought we could go in there and win. And having had a chance to go back and rewatch the game again, some things stuck out to me that were obvious when I was watching it the first time, but it just kind of reiterated and hammered home the point that we didn't take advantage of opportunities that existed within the confines of this game. And upon further review, and again, I'm not a big, officials, guy. Blaming the officials is low-hanging fruit. It's easy. It's what every fan does when their team doesn't win, and there's one bad call in the game. All the officials, they screwed us. The officiating was rough for the Commanders in this game. That's a fair assessment. It was pretty rough. However, you get the interception on the first possession. First of all, Olamide Zaccheaus has to score there. You can't let Lamar Jackson tackle you. That's number one. Okay, you have to find a way. Lamar really didn't want to tackle him, but he's not going to let him score a touchdown. He threw the pick. You have to juke Lamar. You have to find a way to break a tackle. You have to stiff arm Lamar. You have to do something. You can't let Lamar Jackson, because if he doesn't tackle you, that's a touchdown. I'm like, okay, that happened. Jayden Daniels on that next drive, that ensuing drive, I think sometimes he predetermines on these read options. I'm going to keep it. I think sometimes, especially when we get in the red zone, a lot of times I think he predetermines, I'm keeping this thing. I'm going to try to go get me a touchdown. We got into the red zone on a beautifully designed play, and he doesn't give it to Eckler. We got a pulling guard. We got 2 pullers, right? I want to say the center and the guard are pulling, and Sam Cosmi fits up perfectly. I think the center comes after him and leads up the hole, and this thing is wide open. Austin Eckler's going to walk in the end zone. I'm sure of it. This wasn't one of those, well, they didn't react to him because he didn't have the football. That thing was blocked up to perfection, and everybody was keying in on 5. If he gives that thing to 30, he walks in the end zone. It's 7-0 to kick this game off, and it starts totally different. Olamide Zaccheaus can't drop the football on 2nd and 11. That drive resulted in no points. It's those types of mistakes that you can't afford to make, that you make in a game that's ultimately a 7-point contest that doesn't allow you to win. We didn't have enough opportunities on offense because the defense couldn't get stops on 3rd downs. And such is life. These are all things we talked about yesterday. It was a little frustrating. We didn't run the ball enough. 18 rushing attempts. I don't care how good the Ravens' rush defense is. 18 rushing attempts isn't enough. Simple as that. And I get that we didn't have it a ton, and they clobbered us in time of possession. I'm aware of all of this. But we still managed to throw it 35 times. So we could have run it more. But here's the thing. Here's the biggest takeaway. I usually give you on these day afters a big picture view and vantage point of where I am after a game, whether it's a win or a loss. I loved, because I do this every week after every game, I love sitting down after the dust has settled on the day, the smoke has cleared, after every game on Sunday has been played, including the Sunday night game. I do a post-game show for Sunday Night Football, and after that's done, I relax, normally take a bath, maybe grab a snack, depending on how much longer I intend on staying up. And I just watch the post-game press conference of Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels, and then I listen to all of the players in the locker room. I want to get a feel for what the players are saying, how they're feeling, what the vibe is, to kind of give me a better understanding of where their head is. I know where my head is as a fan, but what's more important is where's their heads, because you can't allow this week's loss against Baltimore to turn into a loss next week at home against the Carolina Panthers. That's a game you have to win, right? The expectations have changed. We no longer go into games saying, hey, let's not have a letdown. No, let's go home and get back on track. Let's get right next week against a team that has one win to their name and is giving up the most points in the NFL this season. Let's go do that next week at home. And what I heard from a team was that we're not interested in any moral victories. We didn't go to Baltimore to compete, to show everybody that, hey, our first 5 weeks weren't a fluke. That wasn't the goal and the mission. The mission was to go into Baltimore and come home, get on the bus with a dub, and it didn't happen. And so guys were disappointed and upset. I heard a lot of, hey, I'm ready to go and get in the building tomorrow, correct these mistakes, and I'm ready to get back to work. I saw a hungry group of guys that wanted to get back to work, that wanted to fix the mistakes, who understood that, hey, look, where we're going, where we want to end up, you got to go through battles and challenges like this. This is a battle scar. One of those ones that you look at yourself 10 weeks from now and you say, hey, remember that time we went to Baltimore? Yeah, and we had to dig deep and we didn't get it done. Well, this is the scar we got from that game, and this is how we react now. We never forget what happened there, and this is how we correct it. This is how we move forward and we become better because of it. You know what else I had a chance to do? And this is the biggest takeaway from Sunday. I had a chance to watch every team in the division play. As Washington was playing at 1 o'clock, simultaneously, the Eagles were taking on the Cleveland Browns. Watch that entire game. They're a mess, are the Eagles. And I get it. They came off their bye. They had 2 weeks to prepare for one of the worst teams in football. They barely eked by the Cleveland Browns 20-16 because the Browns can't get out of their own way. The Browns are a mess. And they barely beat them. Everybody else in the division had their way with them, including the Giants, who can't score. We'll get to them in a second. Nick Sirianni's getting into it with fans. They're a mess, are the Eagles. The Cowboys, don't get me started on the Cowboys. Jerry Jones's 82nd birthday, and they gave him a birthday present he will never forget. A 47-9 shellacking at home at the hands of the Detroit Lions. They're a mess. Their star quarterback and star receiver aren't on the same page. Their defense is a joke. And they don't have any other weapons outside of the tight end, Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb. They don't have anybody. You can talk about, Tank Lawrence and Michael Parsons being injured. Those guys make a difference. But when you had them in the lineup, you gave up 47 also to the New Orleans Saints. So I'm not sure why everyone's trying to use those two as scapegoats and make that the excuse as to why you're giving up big points at home. You were doing it before those guys got hurt. You're just not good. It's a poorly coached team. You got everybody on one-year deals from a coach's standpoint. That's no way to live. You were too cheap to sign Derrick Henry. Your fans know it. You have no run game, so Dak doesn't have anything he can lean on. The offensive line is worse because it's young and it's old at the same time. They're a mess. They haven't won at home this season. They got blown out all 3 times. And the one time that they didn't get blown out, they were down 28-3 before they made a comeback against the Ravens. And then there's the New York Giants, who have the best defense in the division, but can't score to save their lives. They scored 7 whole points last night against a Cincinnati Bengals team. Now, granted, they got a lot of their starters back on defense. I can't believe that all of a sudden their defense is fixed because BJ Hill and others came back. Mike Hilton was playing most of the season. He just missed a game. They're not a good defense until they show me that consistently. Cincinnati can still be run on, thrown on. Tyrone Tracy had some good hits in the run game last night. They just can't score. We've seen this movie from them plenty of times. They can't score. It's hard to win in this league if you can't score points. Defense is really solid. So what that led me to is my conclusion, my biggest takeaway from Sunday's action. It's the Commanders' division to lose. If the Washington Commanders don't win the NFC East this season, it's going to be because of their own doing. We're the most stable and functional franchise in the division right now, and that is almost so implausible for me to say right now. If you were to ask me this a year ago, I would have told you you're nuts. You fast forward to present day, and I don't even think this is a discussion. I just told you Nick Sirianni's yelling at Eagles fans after the game. Their defense isn't very good either. They made Deshaun Watson look average yesterday, and that's pretty hard to do with the way he's playing football right now. But somehow he went in there and had a chance. He had a chance. Without scoring an offensive touchdown, I may add. Had a chance without scoring an offensive touchdown. The Cowboys are a mess. Mike McCarthy is going to make it through the year because Jerry Jones doesn't believe in firing coaches in season most times. This thing would have to go completely off the rails. I don't think he's fired a coach in season since maybe Wade Phillips. I think he fired Wade Phillips after a game versus the Green Bay Packers when they got beat up one time back in the day. But that's not his move. He usually waits till the season's over. But this isn't going to end well. Once you look at guys and they've got 1-year deals and they're going into lame duck seat, that's not going to end well for you. And then the Giants they can't win because they don't have enough on offense. And Daniel Jones is their quarterback. And as much as I don't think he's necessarily the root cause of all of their issues, he's a big part of it. He's a big part of it. So you look around. We're the most stable franchise. We've got the best quarterback. And I think we're the best coached team in the division. I know this. We're far from the most talented team in this division. Far from it. One would even argue that we're the least talented team in the division. If you look at everyone's roster top to bottom, you could make the argument because I don't think anyone's going to argue that both Dallas and Philadelphia's rosters are more talented than the one that resides in Washington. The argument would be, well, we've got a more talented roster than the Giants. Do we? I'm not sure about that. I'll just say this. I know we're better coached than all 3 of those teams. And so having looked at the division as a whole, looking at our situation, looking at how hungry our guys are to get back to work after a tough loss, looking at how we're set up. Jayden Daniels yesterday, I think one of the things that was so impressive yesterday is he was placed in a lot of, hey, we got to have it right now, 5 moments. Critical 3rd down, we got to have it. The ball placement was incredible yesterday. It was eye-popping and eye-opening. If this was your first time watching him, you're going, this kid is ridiculous. Where's the throw to Terry McLaurin on 4th down, down 14. And I said this yesterday after the game. If we had any other quarterback that we had here over the last 7 to 10 years, including Kirk Cousins, we lose this game 34-13. This thing never gets within one score again after going down 27-13. This game's over at that point. And the route is on. And the Ravens win this thing 34-13, 37-13 going away. That's what normally happens in a game like this. But because we got one of them ones, we got 5. He made big play after big play and got us within a touchdown. That throw to Terry McLaurin on the 4th down, down 27-13, after pump faking, not really resetting your feet. Do you see where that football is? That is insane. I remember watching it live when he pump faked and then threw it. I was like, what is he doing? His feet aren't even set. And then to see where that ball ends up, Terry's draped on that play. There is nowhere else for that ball to go but exactly where that ball went. He gives us a shot every week, even when we don't have our fastball. And we didn't have our fastball on Sunday. And having Jayden Daniels gives us a chance every single week. We're never out of a game. Doesn't matter how slow of a start we have or how many points we're down. If we've got 5, we're still alive. And that's what one of them ones can do for you. They give you a chance and they make you believe. They all believed. Even the defense after the game said, our biggest regret is that we didn't give 5 a chance. With the football, with a chance to either tie or win the game, we never gave them that shot because they believe, just like I did. When he threw that touchdown to Terry McLaurin and the extra point barely eked through the uprights, I said, we're going to win this game. I didn't know how because we couldn't stop Baltimore's offense, and we didn't stop them all second half. I didn't know how we were going to get the ball back, but somehow, miraculously, we were going to get a stop. Obviously, that didn't happen. But in my mind, we were going to stop them, and somehow we were going to get the football back, and we were going to win this game. Because that's the kind of confidence 5 instills in not just everyone in that locker room, coaching staff, players included. It's what he instills in me as a fan, watching at home. Something we've never had as an organization. You probably got to go all the way back to fans that were there for the glory years with Joe Theismann at quarterback to think of a situation where you like, hey, if my guys got the football at the end, we know we got a shot. But not really in my lifetime. Not since I've been a coherent fan. Something else that's a big takeaway from the game, we've got a field goal kicker. And it wasn't always pretty yesterday. Aesthetically, it wasn't the best yesterday. You know, he had some wobblers come out of there, some kicks that came out where he just didn't hit it good. He didn't hit it clean. But when he does go through his routine and he does strike it good and he hits it clean, oh, my guy, Austin Seibert, is just fine. I was questioning distance with this guy. I wasn't ready to crown him. Wasn't ready to give him the crown of future kicker for this organization for many years to come. Hey, just keep taking it a week at a time. He's young, and he's got a big leg, much bigger than I gave him credit for. That 55-yarder, which I was against, and I'm doubling down, I was against us kicking that 55-yarder. We needed to go in there and be aggressive like we did against Cincinnati. We had a 4th and 5 that we opted to kick a field goal from the Ravens 37. That's not who we've been this season. He made it, and that led me to my conclusion. Austin Seibert's the guy for us. We've got ourselves a real field goal kicker. That 55-yarder cleared the uprights with about 4 yards to spare. That would have been good from 58, 59. So there's no hesitation now when we send him out there for 56 or 57. I'm like, oh no, Austin's good for this. Didn't know that before that kick. That's the only thing that came out of that kick that was good for me, was that I learned a lot about Austin Seibert. I don't have to be worried about, does he have the distance from 55 or 56 or 57? He can do it. If the conditions are okay, they're ideal, he should be fine. But we should have gone for it there, and we shouldn't have punted on a 4th and 6 from the Ravens 40-yard line, 44-yard line. We shouldn't have punted there either. But that's nor here nor there. Those were the decisions that Dan Quinn decided to make. And so we forge forward. We live with that. And I wonder if he regrets that. We'll listen to him talk, at his press conference today. I wonder if he feels like they weren't aggressive enough in those spots, because that's not who we've been this season. And that's, one of my overarching themes from this game is I didn't think we stayed true to who we were. We'd been a team that had run the ball more than we've thrown it in every game this season. And then you meet the number one rush defense, and I think we kind of overreacted, right? Obviously, not having Brian Robinson, I thought, took a little bit of the physicality aspect out of our run game, but that doesn't mean we don't still run it. You know, um, it still had its intended effect, because when we went play action on first downs to kick off drives, Jayden got big completions to Ertz and guys like that over the middle of the football field. And that came off of the threat of him running and the threat of the run itself. So it did what it was supposed to do, but I just didn't think it kept us in manageable third downs. A lot of times when we met our demise on third downs is because we didn't have success on first and second downs. So that's why running on first and second down, and not necessarily in that order, first and second down, but running on one of those two downs and having some semblance of success is big for us. And we didn't really do that this game. So if you're incomplete on first and second down, it's 3rd and 10, or you get a meager 2-yard gain on one of those completions, and then the other one is incomplete, it's 3rd and 8. And we found ourselves in too many of those types of situations throughout the course of this game, where we were in much longer down and distances against a good Ravens defense that is going to come after you, or at least make you uncomfortable if they find you to be in 3rd and long situations. But overall, I left this game with the same feeling I had going in, that this defense is what they are. And I thought that would be the biggest takeaway after the game, is we would find out a lot about this defense. And I told you before, I was impressed with the defense in the first half. Impressed with them in the first half. They gave up more points in the first half than they did the second, which is ironic. It's great irony, because it felt better in the first half. The interception, you forced a punt in the first half. There was resistance from the defense in the first half. No such luck in the second half. There was no resistance. There were much bigger runs by Lamar and Derrick Henry. We held him down. He only had 38 yards rushing or so in the first half. He was I don't want to call him a non-factor, because he did score a touchdown in the first half, and he had a couple of 5-6 yard runs on first down, 4-yard runs, to kind of keep them on schedule. But he wasn't a massive factor like he was in the second half, when he started to really gouge us. Just felt like the defense maybe wore down in the second half. And obviously the secondary is going to continue to be an issue all season long. It is what it is. A lot of you want quick fixes. Hey, trade for this guy. I don't see any of that transpiring. Will they trade for someone? I don't know. Will they be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? My guess is, if we continue to win, there'll be buyers. They'll be in the market. They'll be looking around, but will they actually make a purchase? I don't think so. Because no one's giving anything away at the trade deadline. No one's desperate. The teams that are buying are desperate. And I don't see our general manager, Adam Peters, being desperate. That's not how he operates. That's not how he goes about his business. He'll be calculated. And if the move makes sense for us financially, from a picks and asset standpoint, then he'll do it. But I don't see anybody making it worth our while this time of the year. You're more likely to get a fair market deal in the offseason for a trade or something along those lines. So I think this game, and obviously there's a lot more football to be played, but this game is proof that we're not ready yet. And you're going to run into one or two more of these types of opponents throughout the course of the season. And we just have too many deficiencies on the defensive side. Like, you can't fix that all, during the trade deadline. Can't fix them all. And so are you willing to risk future assets to chase something now that probably can't be obtained because you just don't have enough defensively? I don't think that's the way that they're going to go about their business. And I don't think that's smart business, because you want to maximize Jayden's rookie contract, because once he gets paid, everything changes. So I think next year, similar to what you saw the Texans do, you go all in the offseason. You go after whatever big free agents you need to go after. If there's a trade that needs to be made, you make that then. You need to nail it again in the draft. I think they did a pretty good job of doing that this year. And you kind of recalibrate in the offseason after the dust settles and the smoke clears from free agency and the draft. And then you start seeing where you are, and you start kind of setting your expectation for what this team can be then. But you try to go as far as you can this year. And I'm here to tell you, after 6 weeks, after watching what I watched yesterday around the rest of the division and watching this team on the road in Baltimore against a Super Bowl ready team, we're the best team in the NFC East. And we're one of the best teams in the NFC. You look around at the NFC North, Green Bay and Detroit and Minnesota and Chicago, everyone in that division has 4 wins or more. Minnesota's got 5 and they're undefeated. Detroit's 4-1. Chicago and Green Bay are 4-2. I think we're better than everybody in that division, or we at least could beat them, except for Detroit right now. We play the Bears next in 2 weeks when they come off their bye. So we'll get to figure out who's better of the matchup of those 2 rookie quarterbacks in their respective teams right now. We'll get to play the Bears, and we'll get to settle that ourselves. You look at the NFC West, everyone over there is struggling. There's no 4-win teams in that division. I still respect the 49ers because of their pedigree and what they're capable of when they're clicking. But who knows what's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey? You look at the NFC South, I think the Atlanta Falcons and the Buccaneers are the class of that division. They're going to have to battle it out. They had an epic battle on Thursday Night Football a week ago. But if we saw Tampa again, we're a much more evolved team than the team Tampa ran into in week 1. I'd like to think that we'd give them a run for their money. We might run into some of the same issues that we ran into against them in week 1, which is we couldn't stop Mike Evans and we couldn't stop Chris Godwin. That might happen again, but we also might actually get Baker Mayfield on the ground after having a chance to sack him 5 or 6 times in that game. We had 8 tackles for loss in that game. We just get Baker Mayfield down 2 or 3 times, that might be a different ball game. But we didn't. But I take my chances at the Bucs again. And we play Atlanta later on in the season. So we'll get to figure out where we are and where they are by the time we see them in like week 16 when we play them or so. So I like our chances in the conference. I like our chances in the division. I love our chances in the division. But we got to take care of business. We went to Baltimore, no moral victories. I'm not here to talk about hanging tough with one of the best teams in football. We wanted to win that game and we didn't. But we know now that we're capable of beating anybody in the NFL. So now we just got to go out and prove it week in and week out. Because we won't see another team that's as complete the remainder of the season as Baltimore. So I digress. Anyway, I digress. I'll grab one or two comments and we'll get out of here. Jayden's ball placement on throws was outstanding. B-Rob not playing had an impact. I believe that as well. I truly believe that him not playing in the game was definitely. Look, I don't think that's the difference between us winning and losing this game. Let me be abundantly clear about that. But he clearly has an impact, and I heard players like Terry McLaurin speak to not having B-Rob as something that did affect them offense. I think it might even affected Cliff Kingsbury's play calling. I really, truly do believe that. Let's see. Black 96 says, good game, but we got to get a stop. 2 90-yard drives for scores is tough. Who are you telling? I think that was the most demoralizing thing about the game yesterday is Dan Quinn entrusted this defense twice in situations that weren't ideal. One of them was like a 4th and 12. You had a 4th and 11. You had to punt, right? There was no option to go for it there. But we were in Ravens territory, and that sucks. But he entrusted this defense twice to go out. And first of all, he said, Tress, I need you to pin them inside their own 10-yard line. And he did it not once, but twice. And he entrusted this defense to go out and get a stop and get us a chance to get great field position. And they failed miserably both times. And it's one thing to give up 1 or 2 first downs, give their punter a chance to have some space to punt the football and maybe flip the field position. That's one thing. To give up 2 separate 90-plus yard drives for scores is demoralizing and debilitating. One right before the half and a 90-yard march in the third quarter that broke it felt like at the time that one might have broken our backs. Because that one made it 27-13. And that's when JD5 came alive and said, nah, not on my watch. Not on my watch. I think this kind of sums it up here from Doug Alicious, who says they were outmatched in every way on defense. Yeah, they were. I thought we held our own against the run at times, but there were times where we had 8 in a box and we still gave up 5 or 6, and that you can't do that. Like when you bring that extra defender down into the box, that's your way of saying no, the run's not supposed to work, and it was still working in the second half at times. They won't play another team like this year, besides the Falcons, probably. Agreed. And the Falcons aren't even that good on defense. They're not as good as the Ravens. They just don't have the horses right now. And that's where we are. And that's why I don't think them being super aggressive at the trade deadline is going to change all that much. Like you can't fix some of the things that are ills right now of this team via the trade deadline. I mean, how many guys do you think they're going to acquire, right? Like this is why I just don't know if us being a, buyer at the deadline really changes anything. So I don't see our GM being super aggressive. But again, if a deal falls in his lap, maybe he decides to pull the trigger on something. But I don't really see that being the case right now. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the day after recap and reaction of the Commanders' 30-23 loss to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 6. Commanders are in good hands with number 5. We got one of them ones, and we're the best team in the NFC East. Now we just got to go out and prove it. That's the biggest reaction today, week 6, in the loss to the Ravens and having a chance to watch the rest of the division. We're the most stable, we're the best coached, and we got the best quarterback. Now we just got to go out and get the best results. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.